So tonight again is the Rebbetzin Chaya Mushka's your site. It's the Rebbe's wife. So the shir tonight is, Chabad worldwide is having a lot of Farbrengens, drinking like we have wine over here, saying the Chaims. But the annual Chabad convention, the women's convention for all the Rebbetzins is this weekend. So all the Chabad rabbis are asking this week on the chat, how do you change diapers? What are you making for supper? How do you make food? The extent of my cooking is I know how to make eggs. That's it. Anything else is beyond my expertise. So these are heavy-duty questions happening now. Anyway, so tonight I want to focus on, it's been a very rough day for Am Yisrael. Shiri, Bibas family, and Ariel and Kfir brutally murdered. Only monsters are capable of such barbaric torture. Kidnapping.
Dead Lifshitz also. No.
And what? Oh, Dead Lifshitz. Who actually promoted his life to helping Palestinian causes and helping them and driving them and everything else. But what happened is they kidnapped, they tortured, they killed, and they then exchanged their bodies for despicable terrorists. Not only that, but I just found out now a couple of minutes ago that Shiri's body was not released. They sent another body instead of Shiri's body. Oh, wow. So they sent the kids are there, but Shiri, the mom, they sent another body that's not a hostage, just another random body. They don't know who it is.
Wow.
So they haven't even released Shiri's body yet. I mean, this is like barbaric torture. They also put all brochures and paraphernalia in the coffins, desecrating the bodies. I mean, this is even animals are not capable of doing this. This is monsters. And how are we to cope? I mean, somebody texted me this morning, what should I do? How should I continue my life even when such monsters exist in the world? So I want to talk about this today and give some chizuk, some strength and inspiration. But first, this Shabbat is the month where we bless the new month of Adar. And it says, Mishenichnas Adar marbim simcha. From the time Adar enters, we have to be joyful. And how can we be joyful when it comes to this? Somebody literally asked me today, I'm supposed to go to a dance. How can I dance? How can I be happy when such monsters exist in the world, when such evil exists in the world? Also tonight there was massive terrorist attack was planned for tomorrow. 5 buses were bombed. My daughter was in seminary. They cancelled. They had to stay. She actually just called me at 1 a.m. from Israel hotel. I said, why are you not in bed? She said, well, tomorrow's nothing to do. Nobody's allowed to go on buses. There's no buses. They're staying in Sem all day, even though it's a free day. So they're all going to bed late. So they're just sleeping in because nothing else to do. But Hashem made a miracle, and the bombs went off early, so nobody was injured. But it was a massive terrorist attack planned. There was simultaneous attack. Crazy. So how are we supposed to be happy? Mishenichnas Adar marbim simcha. And it's, by the way, it's not just that. Last week also, we there's so much happening. We kind of forget that the hostages who were released last week they were like literally walking out of concentration camps. Imagine you are in Auschwitz, it's 1945, and you see these concentration camp inmates walking out. That's exactly what's happening. These people were starved. They were treated like concentration camp people, and this is not Germany, this is Gaza, which is part of Israel. So the Rambam writes like this, Maimonides writes, that to be happy is an avodah. It's a work to be happy. And that means, not only does the Torah command us to light Shabbat candles, not only does the Torah command us to keep kosher, not only does the Torah command us to pray in synagogue, but the Torah commands us also how to do this. How to do this? If do it Hashem b'simcha, you have to do it with joy. You cannot walk around doing a mitzvah like a zombie. You cannot walk around and just depressed, sad. You have to be happy. Even on a day like today, you have to be happy. How's it possible? The Jewish world has been brutally brought to their knees by monsters. 16 million Jews worldwide, and there's no protest coming from anywhere in the world. All the women's rights, all the children's rights, silence. Complete silence. It's crazy. The whole world is against us. We're so angry. We're so outraged. Not just by Hamas, but anybody who supports them. Anybody who protests for Hamas are animals. They are monsters. There's nothing else. And Hamas uses a platform and they show on the stage, oh yes, Bibi Netanyahu and the IDF killed these people because of their bullets. The IDF was nonsense. The only people who kill Palestinian children and these hostages were Hamas, nothing else, nobody else. So the answer is like this. The answer is like this. Happiness comes because we have a choice. We choose to be happy. That means happiness comes from within. Happiness comes from the fact that we are alive, we exist in the world, God created us, we are here for a purpose, we are here for a mission, and despite the fact that with my eyes I feel so unhappy, nonetheless I'm happy because I choose to be happy. In 1978, it was in 770 Eastern Parkway, Brooklyn, New York, was Simchat Torah. And the Rebbe, in the middle of the dancing, suffered a massive heart attack, huge heart attack. He had to go upstairs to his room, and he didn't want to go to the emergency room, to the ER, so they literally called all the doctors, and they made an emergency room in his private room. But the Hasidim downstairs was Hakafot, was Simchat Torah, where you're supposed to dance and be joyful. They stopped dancing, and they stopped singing, and they were sad, they were all crying. This is their Rebbe, this is our father. So they're all crying. And the Rebbe sent a message, do you want me to get better? Do you want me to get healthy? You dance. And you continue to be happy. So the Hasidim were dancing around because the Rebbe told them to be happy. And they were trying their best to be happy, but they were sad. They were in so much pain. So they chose to be happy, but it was so difficult. It was immensely difficult. There doesn't exist a Jew around here, around this table, around anywhere else in the world that doesn't have pain. And we all feel the pain of these terrorists today. One of the terrorists today who was there had a 50-year, he killed 44 Jews, he was murdered them, he was in life sentence, and he was supposed to be exiled from Gaza. And where was he today on camera? He was caught front, right, and center, in charge of the ceremony of these children in Gaza, against the rules, against everything. It's like, where's the justice system in the world? And yet we are told, we are commanded to be happy, because happiness is a choice. Remember the story of Joseph? He suffered immensely. He suffered horribly. He was accused of a crime he didn't commit. He was 12 years in prison for a crime he didn't commit. And yet he chose to be happy. When he sees the butler and the baker one day come into prison, he says to them, good morning, why are you upset? What do you mean, why am I upset? I'm in prison. I'm in prison. In fact, Pharaoh killed the baker 3 days later. So what do you mean? Of course I'm sad. Joseph said, no. If you are alive, it doesn't matter if you're in prison, it doesn't matter what your circumstances are, you are happy. And that's the theme of the month. Mishenichnas Adar, from the time Adar comes in, Marbim Besimcha, we have to increase in joy. But I want to elaborate on this because it's so painful. And we can learn from the Megillah. And here's the message. Esther, as we all know, she's the queen. Her husband Achashverosh is the most powerful person in the universe. When Mordechai finds out about the plot to kill every single Jew in one day, right? Haman, his decree, no other anti-Semite in history was able to even think of what Haman thought of. Haman was the only one in control of all the Jews in the whole universe. And he wanted to kill every single male, woman, and child in one day because he hated them so much. And he could, because he ruled over them. So Mordechai sends a message to Esther. And he says to her, please help. Go speak to your husband Achashverosh. Tell him to rescind the decree. And Esther sends a message back that what? I can't. It's too difficult. Because Achashverosh, my husband, made a rule. He said that nobody is allowed to enter his chambers, to enter his palace, to enter his room without him summoning them first. By the way, why did Achashverosh make such a decree? Because he was paranoid. He was paranoid that somebody's going to usurp his throne, somebody's going to take his throne away from him, because that's what he did essentially, because his wife, his ex-wife, was Vashti. Her father was the king. Achashverosh grew up as what? What was his occupation before he became king? He was a stable boy. He looked after the horses. He was the cleaning guy in Belshazzar, in his father-in-law, who was a king, in his palace. And one day Vashti, the daughter, fell in love with the stable boy. And her father said, I don't want you to marry this guy. And she said, I'm in love with him. I want to marry him. So she married him. And when the king died, Ahasuerus became king because she became queen. And therefore he felt an uneasiness. He was paranoid. And that's why he had her killed, because she reminded him all the time, you are Mr. Nobody. I'm the queen. You are Mr. Nobody. And he said, I'm Mr. Nobody. I'll show you. So he killed her. So he made this rule because Haman also, told him, somebody's trying to kill you. You better watch out. So only I have the ear of the king. So even though his own wife, Ahasuerus, who he loved, he adored her, wasn't allowed to enter his chambers unless he summoned her, because he was a little mishugi. He was crazy. He was crazy. Like, your own wife wants to come say hi to you. She can't unless you summon her. That's a little crazy, a little off the guy. So she says she can't. So Mordechai tells us such powerful words, that just this is a lesson, an amazing lesson for life. He says to her like this: Ki imachareish tachrishi ba'eit hazot. The musical note is so powerful, because if you are silent at this moment, if you choose to do nothing, listen to the words. Revach v'atzala ya'amod la'Yehudim mimakom acher. Salvation will come to the Jews from somewhere else. Ve'at uveit avich tovedu. You and your father's home will be destroyed. Umi yodea, and who knows? Im le'eit kazot higat labachot. If for this moment you were brought to the kingdom. So let's just analyze that for a moment. He says, if you don't want to do what's necessary, don't do it. If you are silent, that's okay. Be silent. But you should know that God will find another agent, another emissary to save his beloved children. God loves his children so much, he loves somebody else will save the day. In other words, what he's telling her is, we're doing you a favor by giving you the opportunity to save the Jews. But if you don't want it, that's okay, we'll find somebody else. That means like this: every single one of us has a mission to accomplish in this world. There's something that Talia was supposed to do in this world, and that's why you're alive for 120 years. Very short time, 120 years. But you are alive because you have a mission that nobody else can fulfill. If you feel it's too difficult, that's okay. We'll find someone else to do it. God will have, the mission needs to be accomplished. The mission will be accomplished. But you will be lost, says Mordechai to Esther. She gets it. Esther gets it. And so she goes to her husband, she devises the plan, and she saves the Jews. The rest is history. But those words are so powerful because those words are relevant to us today. How do we know what our mission is, by the way? How do we know what we're supposed to do? There's something that every single one of us can accomplish that nobody else can. Right, on a global scale, if you're a prime minister, if you're president, yes, you have a massive job to do. But if you're just a regular individual, what's your mission? How do you know what your mission is?
This is the Torah.
Yeah, but what's your mission? Yes, you have to do Torah, you have to do mitzvah, but what is your mission? So here's the thing. Your mission, the thing that is hardest for you to do, that's your mission. In other words, like this. There's 613 mitzvot. If you feel that it's very, very difficult for you to put on tefillin in the morning, that's your mission. If you feel that it's supremely difficult for you to turn your phone off on Shabbat, that is your mission. That's your purpose in this world. If you feel that to give charity is so difficult, because, giving charity is very difficult. You feel stingy, a person feels selfish, that's how you feel. But if you feel to give to another person is so, that's your mission. Your mission, your neshama came down into this world to give charity. If you feel that to keep Shabbat is supremely difficult, that's your mission. In other words, the evil inclination inside of you, he knows what your mission is. And therefore, that thing he stands strongest against, that specific item. He tells you, that's always comes up with excuses why not to do that. That's your mission.
But if there's multiple things,
Then it could be that's your multiple missions. Yes. And that's why it is so difficult. Thank you. See, that's what Mordechai tells Esther. Your mission, you were put in here to save the Jews. You don't want to do it. This is your mission. You don't want to do it because you feel it's so difficult. Don't do it. God will find another emissary. We don't need you. That's what he tells her. We don't need, like reverse psychology, right? We don't need you. We're giving you the honor and the privilege to do the mitzvah. That's why, sometimes when I need to fundraise for an important cause, like a wounded soldier needs a prosthetic leg. So I go to a potential donor and I'm telling him, I'm giving you the favor, the honor and the privilege of giving a leg for a soldier. You don't want to do it? We'll find somebody else. But I'm giving you this zchut, privilege, to be able to do this. I got a message from a wounded soldier yesterday morning. This guy is suffering pain for 25 years. He's been injured 25 years ago. Not this war, 25 years ago. And for 25 years, he's suffered so much pain in his leg. 5 years ago, from the tremendous pain, he had his leg amputated. Okay, so 20 years after his injury, 5 years ago, he had his leg amputated. But the amputation, he needed a prosthetic, and he's suffering so much pain, nerve pain in his thing. And he says to me, and we flew him here to New York, and he met the doctor here, and the doctor here says there's a treatment plan. There's what to do about this pain. So he's went back to Israel, and he's flying back in March, beginning of March, to do the surgery. So he texts me, he's so grateful that we're able to alleviate his pain. He suffers so much pain. He's got kids. He's got a wife and kids, and he's looking forward to making his life just pain-free. You know how satisfying that is, such a message? It's like, oh my God, wow, this is like, wow, we were able, God gave us this zchut, the privilege to take a soldier, a wounded soldier, and alleviate his pain. It's like, wow, I'm so like, it's like a drug. It's like taking marijuana. Not that I've ever taken marijuana or heroin, but it's like a drug. I feel like, wow, it's like a high. So you might want to get the door there just to close it. Otherwise, everyone's going to freeze here. Thank you. So here's what he tells her. He says to Esther, Umi yodea, listen to the words, who knows if this is the reason why God put you in the palace? What kind of words are those? Who knows? What do you mean, who? Do you all know why Esther was put? Why was Esther chosen? To save the Jews, obviously. Mordechai was the leader of the generation. He was the Rebbe. He was the Moses of the generation. Why would he tell her? Who knows? Who knows? Maybe this is the reason why you were chosen to be queen. What do you mean, who knows? If you have, let's say, I don't know, the President of the United States, his wife is Jewish, let's just say, and she's in a position to save the Jews. What do you mean? Of course that's why you were there. What kind of question is that? Why is he placing it in doubt? And it's here that there's one of the most powerful lessons. What Mordechai is saying is like this. This is the Rebbe, the Lubavitcher, who said this in a Farbrengen talk. He says, Umi yodea, as to your question, Esther, you have a question. Why me? Why did God choose me for this mission? Why did God choose me to live with a crackpot, basically? To live with a crazy, psychotic Achashverosh. The guy is prone to whims. He was one time drunk at a party and he said, let's kill my wife. That's what he did. He slaughtered millions of people. He hated the Jews, by the way, just like Haman hated the Jews. So Mordechai tells her, as to your question, why me? Why do I have to suffer? Says Mordechai, Umi yodea, who knows? I don't know. I don't know. As to your question, why does the Bibas family have to suffer so much? Why do those beautiful angelic children have to be slaughtered by Hamas monsters? Umi yodea, says Mordechai, I don't know. I have no idea. Make no mistake, everything in this world happens from Hashem. As painful as that is, how could a loving God, a loving Father, make this happen to his children? I just watched somebody get a dollar from the Rebbe, a mother. On YouTube, I saw this. A mother get $1 from the Rebbe, and she walks past and she says, "My son just died. How do I continue living?" I just watched it. And the Rebbe didn't answer her. I mean, the Rebbe didn't explain why. He didn't explain why it's happening. But he said similar to what I'm saying now. As to your question, why me? As to your question, why do we have to watch this suffering? Why does nobody care about us? Nobody. There's nobody protesting. No, the world is like, the silence is deafening. It's like the whole world. If the Jew would kill one Palestinian, the whole world would scream. How dare you? And by the way, I want to mention, President Trump's idea to take the Arabs out of Gaza is genius. Is completely what the Torah wants, is 1,000% what we need to do. And I wish Israeli leaders would have the courage to do this. You have a president who's willing to do it. It's legal. It's the right thing to do for the Jews and for the Arabs. There's 1.7 million Arabs living there, most of whom are terrorists. Every single one of those males living there are terrorists. And the children are being taught to hate Jews. So the cycle of violence is perpetual unless you stop it. Take those Arabs, put them in Egypt, put them in Syria, put them in Jordan, put them in Lebanon, put them anywhere. And you solve the problem. Gaza belongs to the Jews. It's ours. By the way, biblical Israel, Abraham promises Abraham Avinu in Parashat Lech Lecha. What does he say? Minahal Mitzrayim From Mitzrayim, from the river of Mitzrayim. Where's the river of Mitzrayim? That's all ours. Now, don't tell this to Sisi, now. But that's all our land. It's all our territory. And when Mashiach comes, we'll be given that back because it's ours. Ad Nachal Pra, from the north to the south, it's all ours. Parts of Iraq are still part of biblical Israel. And I'm not even talking about the three lands, Keni, Kenizi, Kadmoni, which extends the land of Israel. I mean, I'm talking about, I think even parts of Saudi Arabia are ours. I've got to check exact map, but yeah, that's all going to be ours when Mashiach comes.
It's in Porsche Lech Lecha. Oh, I know in Porsche Lech it says he's going to give the land, but it says like the territorial... Yes.
Minahar Mitzrayim Vad Nahar Pra, yes. You have a map of biblical Israel, you can look at it. But it's all ours. So President Trump's idea is genius. Left wing, right wing, this has nothing to do with politics. This has to do with simple solution. These Arabs don't care about anything. They don't want to live. They just want to murder Jews. Get them out of there. Done. Solution. Problem solved. And no, America shouldn't annex Gaza for themselves. It belongs to the Jews. Israel fought for it. It's our land. We put our blood for it. It's ours, not American. As much as we love the Americans, but it's not their land. It's ours. So as to your question, Umi Yodea, says Mordechai, I don't know. But Le'et Kazot Higat La Malchut. We don't know, but one thing I can tell you, this is why you were put here. I don't know how to explain to you why you were chosen, but I do know you have a mission. Because a Jew, listen to this line carefully, a Jew does not ask Lama, why. A Jew asks Lema, meaning what. You ever wonder, how do you greet a Jew when you see a Jew in the street, right? How's it going, right? Hi. How do you greet a Jew in Yiddish? Classical Jewish greeting, what do you say to them? No, that's Hebrew. Manishma is Hebrew. In Yiddish? Very good. Was machst du? Anyone ever thought of the translation of the word Was machst du? Was machst du? What?
What makes you?
No, not exactly. Nearly, very, very close. Was machst du? What are you doing? I thought of that. Let's just think about that for a second. In English, we say hi. Hey, how's it? In Afrikaans, we say, how's it, China? How's it going, man? You know? In Hebrew, we say manishma. But the classic Yiddish greeting, we want to know, what are you doing? Was machst du? What are you doing? Think about it. What a Jew doesn't ask why. a Jew asks, what? What are you doing today? I know you're in pain. I know you're suffering. But you choose to be happy because those terrorists, they can never break us. The spirit of Am Yisrael is unbreakable. We are invincible. We are united as one. We have a secret power called the Almighty God. Yes, they can shake us. Yes, they can try break us, but they'll never be successful. Hamas is Amalek. It's the same thing. And we look forward to the greatest holiday ever when Hamas is going to be eradicated and destroyed, just like we have Purim. Because Hamas are monsters. And anybody who supports them worldwide are monsters. Same exact thing. There's no difference between them. And the world hates us. But we are strong. We are unbreakable. And we will not be defeated. And we will choose to be happy. As the Rambam writes, to be happy is an avodah. It's a work. It's a hard work. It's not easy. Like the Rebbe in 1978 ordered his Hasidim to be happy and to dance. They felt pain. We feel pain today. There's nothing we can do. We feel pain. We're human beings. We feel pain. We cry. There's not a Jew in the world who watches those animals parading those coffins around while their children are watching. They bring in their children to watch our children massacred. Crazy. It's insanity. It's not a Jew who's broken. But we choose to be happy. Because Mishenichnas Adar Marbim Besimcha, from the time Adar comes in, we are Besimcha. Umi Yodea, I ask you a question, why me? Why do I have to suffer? Why is God doing this to me? I don't know. Moses screamed at God, Lama Hareota Lama Zeh, why are you mean to this nation? Why are you doing so evil to this nation? We don't know. And the Rebbe answered that woman when she came in to get the dollar, why was my child killed? The Rebbe said, I don't know, but Mashiach's coming soon. And as the Rebbe said those words, she's like, calm down. Oh, Mashiach. Oh, Mashiach, yes, the Messiah is coming. There's going to be a resurrection of the dead. We see Shiri and Ariel and Kfir. We'll see them. By the way, a non-Jew converted today. You saw that on the news, and he called his name. What do he call himself?
Kfir.
Kfir Ariel, right? Kfir Ariel. Mikamcha Yisrael. Who is like you, this nation Israel? Unbelievable. Because that's our secret. We are all united as one. We are all one people, one nation. We choose to be happy. We choose to be strong. We choose to continue. Our secret weapon is that spiritual power, and therefore we can never be shattered. It can never be broken. That's why for the last 4,000 years, empires, strong empires, which were seemed to be invincible, have been broken down. The Egyptians, the Ottomans, the Greeks, the Romans, the Hitlers, the Stalins, the Arafats, the Yassa, Sinwars of society, all gone. But the Jews are here, and the Jews will be here forever. And when Mashiach comes, we will this is what the Torah tells the lady. When Mashiach comes, we're able to ask him those questions. When Mashiach comes, we will ask him, why the Bibas family? Why did they have to be butchered by these Hamas monsters? Why were they kidnapped? Why were 1,200 Jews murdered, massacred on October 7? We will ask Mashiach. And he better give us answers. But he'll be able to give us answers because then the answers will be around. But till then, we're just in pain. We are outraged. But we choose to be happy, and that is our strength. That is Mishenichnas Adar Marbim Besimcha. We extra joy of Simcha. In 1970, it was the middle of the holiday of Sukkot, and there was a young lady by the name of Mrs. Gansberg who passed away. And she left a couple of orphans and her young husband. Obviously, they were shattered, completely broken. And that year, a couple days later, was on Simchat Torah. So there's a custom on Simchat Torah. The Rebbe sent his Hasidim to go to other synagogues and make them joyous. That's why on the Upper East Side, like Chabad, Simchat Torah is like wild. Because Simchat Torah was like the Rebbe's Yom Tov. It's like, you can go to other shows and it's all wonderful, but Chabad on Simchat Torah, there's nothing comes close.
Sure.
And the students come and they walk from 770. When I was a student, I also walked hours and hours. And the Rebbe would only start his kakafot when they would all come back, like midnight or something, it would start.
Wow.
When you go there, it's 48 hours of non-stop joy.
Rabbi, why is it a Chabad custom to do a Shmini Atzeret, the Hakafot?
So Chabad do it 2 days. Shmini Atzeret, Simchat Torah. First of all, in Israel, Shmini Atzeret is Simchat Torah. It's on one day, so Shmini Atzeret, Simchat Torah, one thing. But it's a Chabad custom. That's what we do.
I don't think I might be mistaken, but I don't think it's just Chabad. I think all Hasidic synagogues. Like I know
Yes.
my father had a little bit of Hasidic
Yes.
lineage, and he would sometimes try to go to a Hasidic synagogue to
Yes.
dance the first night.
Yes, there's different customs. It's not exclusive to Chabad. But what happens is, so this guy, Rabbi Gansberg, had a custom that he would go to a certain synagogue in East Flatbush. There was a couple of older Jews there, small synagogue. And he'd do a kakafot for them, make them happy, like as per the Rebbe's command. So that year he was thinking, how can I go? My wife just died. But in Simchat Torah, on the holiday, there's no mourning, right? When Shiva only starts after the holiday. So he decided, you know what, he's going. But on the way, he was depressed. He's like, think of his wife and think of his kids who are walking with him. But when he got to the synagogue, he was able to decide at that moment that I want to choose to be happy. And he danced around in that shul like a young man and like he'd never danced before in his life. He danced and he danced and he danced and he was like going crazy, like on the tables. He was like besimcha, simchat Torah, hakafot, ata harei soladas, ki Hashem hu elokim einoid milvadoi, dancing and his wife had just died 4 days before. He came back to 770 Eastern Parkway, a couple hours later. And he was the one who would start the nigunim, start the tunes by the Rebbe's Farbrengen, by the Rebbe's thing. So he was starting a tune there by the Rebbe, and one of the tunes that he was leading, it's a Russian song, but the words were, B'mayim lo nitva, we will not be drowned by water, Ba'esh lo nisaref, we will not be burnt by fire. And he was like singing and whatever. And the Rebbe got up in the middle, and the Rebbe looked at him. And the Rebbe went like this. And when the Rebbe goes like this, the whole crowd goes wild. And the Rebbe got up, and he went like this, both hands. And the crowd was going crazy like this. It was wild. Fast forward 20 years to 1990. And Tzivois Hashem in Crown Heights, which is an organization helping children, gets a call. And there's somebody on the line, and he said, I wanted to make a substantial donation to your cause. And he made a very large donation. And when the guy and the head rabbi, they asked him, tell me, why you donate? What just made you decide to donate? This is a cold donation. I mean, is any fundraiser's dream? So he said, well, 20 years ago, I was a young kid in a synagogue in East Flatbush. And there was a guy there dancing, and like crazy dancing. And I told my father, wow, this guy, he must have just won the lottery or something. He must have won a new car. Maybe he had a new child. I mean, he's besimcha, like crazy. I've never seen somebody so happy in his life. So my father told me, well, yeah, he lost his wife 4 days ago. And at that moment, he said, I made a decision that if there could be somebody who could be so happy, who could choose to be so happy on Simchat Torah, I want to make children happy as well. And if one day I'm going to have money, I'm going to make a donation to that Rebbe, to that organization who sends these guys out to be happy.
Wow.
And he made such an impact on that child. Because happiness is a choice. And on a personal level, we all have so much to be miserable over. We all have sorrows. It doesn't exist. Anybody does have massive sorrows, right? The boss made me angry. A co-employee didn't look at me properly. Somebody teased me. I don't know. There were so many things that irk us and make us nervous, make us crazy, and give us anxiety attacks and panic attacks. And we're so upset and frustrated and grumpy. Jews, we're just grumpy. That's what we are. We're just grumpy. We don't have our coffee in the morning. We don't have our gym in the morning. We're grumpy. But we choose to be happy. And for Shiri and Ariel and Kfir, Bibas and Oded, what we should do is make a child happy. If you have nieces, if you have nephews, if you have cousins, Give them a toy, give them something. Let them be happy over something. Read them a story. Round the Shabbat dinner table. Do something for kids. That's the message for Klal Yisrael, for the nation of Israel. To do something for children. Because those children are the most innocent things in the entire universe. There's nothing more pure, more holy than a child. Jewish child is a neshama. Is getlecha. He's godliness. You want to know what an angel is? It's a Jewish child. That's what he is. Simple as that. And then to tie it in, the Megillah, if you actually look at the Megillah, the first 2 chapters are kind of redundant. Think about it. There's actually an argument in the Talmud. The Talmud says we should start reading from Ish Yehudi or from chapter 3 or from chapter 6, according to another opinion. But what do? Not only do we start reading from chapter 1, which is redundant details, like it starts with the party, Vayehi, and it was in the days of Achashverosh, and Achashverosh made a party for 180 days. We really didn't know that the guy did an orgy party for 180 days. Like, what? And there was tapestries, and there was this, and there was that, and he killed his wife. Why do we have to know all these details? All these crazy details. It describes everything there. The whole mishugas of the party, and why he killed his wife. It should start with, okay, Haman made a decree, and that's what happened. That's it. And it says that if you miss out one word of the Megillah, you're not yoitz, you don't fulfill your obligation. You need to hear every single word. Why is that? Because there's something special and unique about the Megillah. You see, life is a puzzle. There are pieces to the puzzle that you won't know why they are so important, why they are so critical, why they are so vital, till many years later. Like sometimes you'll lose your job, but you'll only realize 5 years later that this is the right thing to do, that this is the best thing to happen for you. And you see that in the Megillah. Take a look at the Megillah now, right? What does the Megillah say? There was a feast in the 3rd year. Okay, so imagine you were a Jew living in that 3rd year of his reign. Right? There was a feast in the 3rd year, so the Jews in Shul would say, this Meshuggah Achashverosh, he had a feast, he invited all his friends, it was 180 days. By the way, 180 days of partying, think about it, 6 months. 6 months of partying, of drinking. You could drink for an hour, 2 hours, a night of drinking. 180 nights of drinking, 180 days, they were smashed for 180 days. That's great. So imagine the Jews at that time. They were thinking, this guy Achashverosh is pretty crazy. He wants to show off his wealth. And that was like the New York Times, the Persian Times, But irrelevant, completely irrelevant, right? Fast forward a couple of years. What does the Megillah say? In the 7th year, he made a beauty pageant competition where he invited all the beautiful girls in the entire universe to see who's the most beautiful. And he chose somebody, and he chose Esther. So imagine the Jews at that time. Achashverosh, after he killed his wife, he now chose a queen, Esther. But did they think anything of it? Nothing. They didn't think anything of it because there was nothing to think of it. Right? 3rd year, he kills his wife. He makes a party. The 7th year, Esther is chosen. But still, the Jews, if you were living then at those times, it's just another thing happening. Nothing. And then in the 12th year, when Haman makes a decree to kill all the Jews, now you can look back and think, 1 second, the 3rd year, he killed his wife. The 7th year, Esther was chosen because Esther now is going to save us, which is exactly what happened. So now you see it full circle, right? Imagine those 12 years. 1st year, you have no idea what's going on. The 2nd year, no idea. But you realize, God has been planting the seeds. He's been planting the story to be able to save us. But that's hindsight vision. And that's why the Megillah is so important. That's why we read the first 2 chapters, to teach us. Sometimes it's not 12 years, it's 20 years, 30 years. Sometimes only when Mashiach comes will we be able to piece all the puzzles. Will we be able to realize why October 7 had to happen? Will we be able to realize why the Bibas family had to be murdered? Until then we are clueless, we don't know. But that's why the Megillah is so important, because those 2 chapters teach us about hindsight, that every detail is important. It's also, if you look at the detail of why they killed Vashti, okay, so look at this conversation. Vashti decides she's not appearing in front of Achashverosh. Achashverosh summons his wife, and she says, no, I don't want to appear in front of you, right? So the king now holds an emergency court session with his smart men. And he says, Mala sois, what should we do with the queen who doesn't want to appear in front of her husband? So what do they say? Vayomer Memuchan. Memuchan says, who's really Haman, he says, Lo ala melech levado avta Vashti amalka. The queen didn't sin only against Achashverosh, she sinned against every male in the country. Why? Because since Vashti refused orders from her husband, what's going to happen when a guy in Persia cooks his Persian stew and he says to his wife, bring it, she'll say no. Because she'll say, Vashti didn't appear. So she'll say no. And when a guy in, in Egypt wants to get a new car, his wife, in other words, why should you kill Vashti? Because every male in the country, the wife won't listen to him. This is what they say in the beginning. What kind of nonsense is this? Who cares? He had said about Lavzot Bari Henbein, and all the women will abuse their husband. They won't listen. And yet this detail is so important, because later on in the 11th year, the 12th year, when Achashverosh sent a decree to have all the Jews killed, the population didn't listen. You know why? Because they remembered that the king is such a fickle king. He's like, nothing he says stays. One day he says this, the next day he says that. So today he tells us kill everybody, but tomorrow he'll send the decree and then he'll blame us. In other words, because they realize the king is so crazy, because of that story of Vashti, they realize he's so cuckoo, he's crazy. They didn't listen initially when he told them to kill all the Jews. Which is exactly what happened, by the way. Esther sent out new decrees to rescind that decree. So that detail was so important, and you only realize that in hindsight. So when you're living the moment, you don't realize why these details are so important. But only later on you realize that every detail is so important. I want to finish off with a story. During the Second World War, there was in Russia a guy by the name of Zusha Margolin. He had a wife, a couple children, and he was drafted into the Red Army. His wife, Nechama, fought with her 2 young children, and she had a baby. And she went from place to place, but she was starving, and every piece of bread that she had, she gave to her children. But eventually she had no more strength left and she died. She passed away. So 2 young orphans, they were 11 or 12 years old, they had a toddler, and they tried the best they can to care for the baby, but the baby died soon from, hunger. And they were taken to an orphanage, a non-Jewish orphanage for the war. And after the war, they were told, okay, if you have any family left, we'll come pick you up, we'll let you go, otherwise you stay here in this orphanage and die a spiritual death. So one of the girls remembered, her name was Mina, she was 12 years old, she remembered that her mother, every single Erev Pesach, she would send fat of ducks, schmaltz, to her sister's family, Dreza, in Leningrad. She would take the schmaltz and put it like in diapers, put it in a box, and send it. So one year, she went with her mother to the post office. And when they got to the post office, the guy in charge said, oh, the bag is dripping. Sorry, I can't send it. So she was forced to go home, get more diapers, get another box, whatever, and wrap it. But meantime, the mother left the daughter in the post office to look after the schmaltz. So she was a couple hours there and she had nothing to do. So what she was able to do was, she looked at the address of her aunt, of the mother's sister. She read the address over and over. During those few hours, she just read the address, read the address, until she memorized it, and she just knew it completely by heart. And so now in the orphans' language, in the orphanage home, she knew the address of her aunt. And they were able to send the letter to the aunt, and her aunt came to pick her up, and that's how she was saved. And she went to Kfar Chabad, to Israel, where she's a great grandmother probably hundreds of Chabad family, all because of that. Because in hindsight, by the way, their names are Mina Rivkin and Tova Altois. That's the names of these two beautiful families, both of them. Hundreds of descendants. So sometimes in the moment you feel so much pain. But in hindsight, you realize why it all had to happen. So to sum up, we have no idea why God caused this tragedy, October 7th, to happen, and today is such a terrible, terrible day. But we do know that we choose to be happy, and there is a story, there is a puzzle out there. We don't know it. But a Jew doesn't ask why, a Jew asks what. Was machst du? What are you doing? What are you doing today? Are you doing a mitzvah? Are you keeping Shabbat properly? Are you keeping kosher properly? Are you putting on tefillin? Are you studying Torah every single day? That is the best thing you could do for October 7th, for Israel, for life in general, for you, for everybody else. L'chaim v'livracha. Enjoy.